My name's Jason. I'm 46 years old, and I used to think I had life somewhat figured out. I wasn't rich, I wasn't perfect, but I had a woman I loved, a chaotic but beautiful family, and dreams of growing old together. We weren't married, but we were something even deeper, partners through struggle. We had been together for nearly 13 years. 13 years. That's not a fling, that's a lifetime in its own way. We built a life together, raised children, 8 of us in total. 2 were ours together, and we each brought 2 from our previous relationships. It wasn't easy, not by a long shot, but there were moments I truly believed we were unstoppable. Then, life happened. The last couple of years have been hell for me. I lost job after job, and I felt like a failure in my own skin. I ended up stuck in a miserable job, dragging myself out of bed every morning just to put food on the table. The kind of job that crushes your soul bit by bit until you stop recognizing the person in the mirror. I slipped into a depression so deep that I didn't even realize how far gone I was. I felt like I was drowning, and she was drifting too, I guess. We were living under the same roof, but we weren't really together anymore. Survival mode does that to people. But things finally started turning around last November. I landed a new job, a good one, the kind that made me feel like a man again, like maybe I could fix the wreckage behind me and rebuild something worth holding on to. That's when I found the letter. It wasn't addressed. It wasn't mailed. It was just sitting there, folded neatly, like it was waiting for me to find it. A letter from her to someone from her past. As I read the words, my stomach dropped. It was poetic, romantic, longing, not meant for me. I confronted her. She swore up and down that she hadn't sent it, that it was just some dumb emotional outlet, that she was just writing out feelings and didn't mean anything by it. I wanted to believe her. I needed to believe her. 2 days after Christmas, she packed a bag and told me she was going to stay with a friend for a few days. She didn't say much else. I didn't ask much either. I chalked it up to the usual stress. Families like ours, large, messy, blended, don't come with instruction manuals. Maybe she needed space, but my gut knew something was wrong. Fast forward to April, and she planned a girls' trip with her daughter to Florida. Again, I didn't think much of it. I stayed home, took care of things, held the fort. I missed her truly. I realized during that week just how empty the house felt without her laugh echoing down the hallway or her scent lingering on the pillow beside me. When she got back, I greeted her with all the love and longing I had stored up. I told her how much I missed her. I kissed her. I reached for her. That's when she told me. She was in love. With someone else. Not just someone, her high school boyfriend. It felt like I had been punched straight in the chest. No, lower. It felt like I was being torn apart from the inside. I stood there, stunned, barely able to process the words. She assured me they hadn't had sex. That it was emotional. Just talking. That they'd been reconnecting for almost a year. A whole year. While I was drowning in depression and fighting to keep the lights on, she was building something behind my back. Something secret. Something that didn't include me. But then something even more confusing happened. A week later, we had sex. And not just once. For an entire month, we were intimate again 2 to 3 times a week. We laughed. We kissed. It was passionate, desperate, even sweet at times. It felt like a spark reigniting. Like maybe she had changed her mind. Maybe she remembered what we had. Maybe I still had a chance. But deep down, I knew I was fooling myself. For a brief moment, it felt like we were finding our way back to each other. I don't know if it was desperation, nostalgia, or some twisted combination of both. But during that month, I let myself believe we had a fighting chance. We laughed again. We talked, really talked. We made dinner together like we used to. Bickered about little things, watched the kids play. She'd touch my shoulder while passing behind me. Sit closer on the couch. Her eyes lingered longer than before. I wanted to believe that meant something, but something always felt off. Sometimes I'd catch her staring at the wall when she thought I wasn't looking. Sometimes after we were intimate, she'd curl away from me and silently wipe tears from her face. I wanted to ask her what was going on, but I was too afraid of the answer. Then came the trip to see his parents. She told me they were sick, that she was going to visit them for a few days. Just a friendly gesture, nothing more. They always liked me, she said with a shrug, as if this was the most normal thing in the world. I felt it in my bones, that pit in my stomach, that whisper in the back of my mind. The kind that only speaks when something's terribly wrong. I asked her plainly, "Are you going there to see him?" She looked me in the eye and said no. I nodded, and I lied to myself again. While she was gone, I barely slept. I kept checking my phone, wondering if she'd text me something sweet. She didn't. Just the occasional vague update, "They're not doing great, long day, headed to bed early." Then she came home. And again, we were intimate. But this time, it was different. Afterwards, she started crying. Not quiet tears, deep, chest-heaving sobs. The kind of crying that breaks you just to hear it. I sat up in bed and just looked at her. "What's wrong?" I asked. She shook her head. "I'm sorry," she whispered. I didn't know what she was sorry for, and she wouldn't say. We drifted like that for a while. She was there, but not really. I tried to hold on to whatever thread we had left. I told her I wanted to fix things. I begged her, really. I said, "We can go to therapy. I'll do the work. Let's fight for our family." She didn't say no, but she didn't say yes either. I didn't know where I stood anymore. Was I her partner? Her backup plan? Just some habit she hadn't broken yet? Then, late one night, after she fell asleep, I picked up her phone. I wasn't proud of it, but I had to know. What I found wasn't just flirty messages. It wasn't just memories and old jokes. It was intimate, explicit, real. And the worst part? She had lied again. I waited until morning. I sat with the information all night, my chest tightening with every breath. I replayed the last few months in my mind, trying to spot the signs I had missed. Trying to understand how I had become such a fool in my own home. When I confronted her, she finally admitted it. Yes, they had slept together. She had gone to see him, and she had slept with him. I felt the air leave my lungs. I wasn't even angry anymore. Just hollow, like there was a black hole where my heart used to be. All I could say was, "Why?" She didn't answer. Maybe she didn't know, or maybe she didn't care enough to explain. That night, I told her I'd be moving out in a month. We'd figure out the living arrangements for the kids, how to split everything. I wasn't ready to be done, but I couldn't stay. Not like this. Not when I was the only one still fighting. And before you think I'm some saint, here's my own confession. 5 years ago, when we were separated for a time, I kissed another woman. Nothing more happened, we never slept together, but it still happened. I told her about it back then, and she said she forgave me. But now I wonder if she ever really did. Maybe the kiss planted a seed. Maybe it gave her the justification she needed when the time came. Or maybe it had nothing to do with it at all, and she just fell out of love slowly, quietly, like a candle running out of wax. I don't know. All I know is that I'm sitting in the house we built, packing my life into boxes, wondering how the hell we got here. And wondering what the hell I'm supposed to do next. After the truth came out, everything shifted. The house didn't feel like a home anymore. It was more like a waiting room before an execution, quiet, tense, every word between us filtered through the ghost of her betrayal. Even the air felt heavier. She didn't say much after I told her I'd be moving out. I think, in her mind, the decision had already been made a long time ago. She just hadn't told me yet. But for me, it was everything. Every hallway echoed with memories. The laughter of our kids, the whispered "I love yous" in the dark, the fights, the makeups, the meals we shared, the cold mornings with coffee on the porch. All of it replayed like a movie stuck on loop. And now it was ending. I started sleeping on the couch. Not because she asked me to, but because I couldn't lie in that bed anymore, not after what she did. That bed where we made love, cried together, held our babies, whispered about our future, now it just felt like a crime scene. I'd hear her footsteps in the hallway late at night, pacing, sometimes stopping outside the living room. She'd stand there, saying nothing. Just breathing. Maybe she wanted to talk. Maybe she didn't. I never asked. I was too tired. One night, around 2 a.m., I heard her quietly open the front door and step outside. I watched her through the window. She sat on the porch swing in just a hoodie and socks, her knees pulled up to her chest like a teenager. She looked lost. Just like me. And for a second, I hated how much I still loved her. But love without trust is just a slow form of torture. Every day that followed felt like walking on broken glass. We were polite, cordial, cooperative for the kids. But beneath the surface, there was this constant tension. Like a wire stretched too tight, waiting to snap. Our children could feel it. Even the youngest ones. Kids are smarter than we give them credit for. They can sense when something's broken even if they don't understand why. One of her daughters, her teenage girl from a previous relationship, stopped talking to me altogether. She used to call me dad. She used to come to me with school problems, boy troubles, everything. Now she wouldn't even meet my eyes. Maybe her mom told her things. Or maybe she just picked a side. And honestly, I couldn't blame her. I wasn't her blood. I was just the man who tried to love her like my own. What hurt the most wasn't just losing the woman I loved, it was losing the family we built together. Not just the romantic part, but the whole unit. The chaos, the dinners, the birthday parties, the movie nights. I used to hate how loud our house was. Now I couldn't stand how quiet it had become. One day, while organizing my things in the garage, I found an old photo album. Back when people still printed pictures. Inside were snapshots of our early days, her laughing on the beach, us holding hands at a carnival, a family camping trip where the tent collapsed in the rain and we had to sleep in the car. We were soaked, cold, and completely happy. It felt like another lifetime. I sat there on a box of Christmas decorations and cried for the first time in years. Not just from pain, but from grief. I was mourning a life that was still technically around me but had already died. I kept thinking about that letter I found back in November. The one she wrote to her high school boyfriend. She told me it meant nothing, that she never sent it. But looking back, I realize now it was a goodbye letter. Not to him, to me. She had already made her decision. She just hadn't told me yet. Maybe she didn't want to hurt me. Maybe she wanted to keep things stable until the right moment. Or maybe she was just scared, same as me. But that letter, that was the beginning of the end. And I missed it. I let myself believe it was harmless. That we still had time. That we were just going through a rough patch. But in reality, the ship was already sinking and I was too focused on patching holes to realize she was already rowing away. The days blurred together. Wake up. Go to work. Come home. Avoid the silence. Pretend we're still functional for the kids. Go to bed. Repeat. I was counting down to the day I'd move out, but every hour felt like its own separate weight. There's something cruel about living with someone who's already emotionally left you. You see them every day, hear their voice, smell their perfume, but it's like trying to hold onto a ghost. They're present, but they're not with you. And yet, we still had moments. Not romantic ones. Not even tender ones. Just small glimpses of the past. Like when we both reached for the same coffee mug and our hands touched. Or when we caught each other laughing at the same dumb TikTok one of the kids showed us. It was bittersweet, because those little flickers only reminded me of what we lost. And what I was about to lose for good. One evening, I was sitting in the backyard watching our youngest kick a soccer ball against the fence. He was only 7. Bright, sensitive, and more observant than he should be at that age. He kicked the ball once, twice, then stopped. "Are you mad at Mom?" he asked. It was like a knife through my chest. I didn't even know how to begin answering that. So I just shook my head and said, "No, buddy, we're just having a hard time right now." He thought about that for a second, then asked, "Is that why you sleep on the couch now?" I nodded slowly. He didn't say anything else, just picked the ball back up and kept kicking it. Like asking the question had been enough. Later that night, I sat in the kitchen with my eldest, my daughter from a previous relationship. She's 17, whip-smart, fierce, and probably the strongest one in the house emotionally. She was scrolling through her phone, earbuds in, completely ignoring the world. I asked her, "You okay?" She looked up and studied me for a second. Then, without skipping a beat, she said, "You don't have to pretend you're okay with this." I blinked. She pulled her earbuds out and leaned forward. Everyone sees it. The way she looks at her phone now. The way you look at her. "It's over, Dad. You're just afraid to let go." I didn't know what to say. She wasn't wrong. She continued, "You don't have to stay here and rot just because you think it's best for us. It's not. You need to get out." And maybe she does too. I wanted to cry. Not just because she saw me so clearly, but because I realized she had grown up while I wasn't paying attention. She had turned into someone I could actually lean on. And in that moment, the roles reversed, my daughter was comforting me. That night, I finally sat down and wrote a message I had been putting off for weeks. It was to the woman I kissed 5 years ago. The one I had told my girlfriend about, the one who had become a ghost in our story. I didn't write her because I wanted to start something again. I wrote her because I needed to finally own what I did too. Here's what I said. "I just want to say I'm sorry. Years ago, when we were separated, I kissed you and I've carried guilt over that moment ever since. Not because of what it led to, but because of what it represented. I was lost. I was weak. I never gave myself the space to heal. And now, years later, I find myself watching the person I love do something worse, but maybe not so different. I don't expect anything from this message. I just wanted to tell someone the truth. Someone who was there." She never responded. And maybe that was for the best. I wasn't looking for closure from her. I was trying to give myself some. I started therapy the following week. Alone. She didn't want to go with me, said she didn't think it would change anything. I didn't argue. I just went. And in that therapist's office, I said out loud for the first time, I don't know if I'm angry at her or at myself. She nodded calmly. Maybe it's both, she said. Yeah, maybe it's both. I always thought the end of a relationship was loud, like screaming matches and slammed doors. Clothes thrown on the lawn. Police called in the night. Chaos. But it turns out sometimes love dies in whispers. One quiet morning, she made coffee. I was sitting at the kitchen table, staring out the window like I had been doing every day for weeks. She placed a mug in front of me, black, just how I like it, and sat across from me. For a few minutes, we didn't speak. Then, almost too casually, she said, I think it's time we talk. And just like that, my stomach dropped. I had replayed this conversation in my head 100 times. I had crafted entire speeches, some full of pain, some full of rage, others with hopeful promises. But sitting there in front of her, all I could manage was a nod. She looked tired, not just physically but spiritually, like something inside her had gone out, and there wasn't enough left to relight it. I didn't mean for it to happen like this, she began. I didn't go looking for him. He found me on Facebook. Just a message at first, then a phone call, and before I knew it, it was like I remembered this whole part of me I had forgotten. I stayed silent. I know I should have told you, she continued, but you were going through so much. I didn't want to break you on top of everything else. And I guess I liked having something that wasn't falling apart. That last part hit me like a hammer. Something that wasn't falling apart. That's how she saw me. Our family. A crumbling building she was too tired to hold up anymore. I finally spoke. Why didn't you just leave when you started falling for him? She swallowed hard. Because I wasn't sure. I didn't know if it was real or just nostalgia. I didn't want to destroy this unless I was absolutely sure. So you destroyed it slowly instead? I asked. Her eyes filled with tears, but she didn't deny it. I'm sorry, she whispered. I know, I said, but that doesn't fix it. There was a pause. I could feel everything inside me cracking, like a dam about to burst. Did you love me? I asked. She looked at me, her face raw and unguarded. I did, she said. So much, but I think I started loving you out of obligation, out of loyalty, and somewhere along the way, it stopped being enough. Those words were honest, brutally, horrifically honest, and I appreciated that more than I can explain. But it still broke me. I leaned back in the chair, staring up at the ceiling, wondering how the hell two people who gave everything to each other could end up feeling like strangers. I wanted to fight for us, I said quietly. I know, she replied, but I think I already gave up a long time ago. I nodded slowly. There was nothing else to say. That night, I packed the rest of my things into boxes. The kids were staying with friends, thankfully. I needed to do this alone. She helped me load the car. We didn't speak much, just moved mechanically like two people performing the final act of a play neither of us wanted to star in. Right before I closed the trunk, she touched my arm. I do hope you're happy, Jason, she said. I really do. I nodded, forcing a smile I didn't feel. You too. I drove away without looking back, but I felt it, the weight of her eyes in the rearview mirror, the pull of a life that was no longer mine, the soundless scream of goodbye echoing louder than any words could. The first night alone was silent, painfully, unbearably silent. No kids running down the hall, no dishes clinking in the sink, no distant hum of the TV in another room, just the buzz of the refrigerator and my own thoughts, loud, intrusive, cruel. I laid on the air mattress in my new apartment, staring at the ceiling, thinking about all the little things I had never appreciated, the weight of her beside me in bed, the way she always left her shoes by the front door, the scent of her shampoo in the bathroom after she showered. Grief is a funny thing. It doesn't hit you all at once. It comes in waves. One day you're folding laundry and you find a sock that doesn't belong to anyone anymore. Another day you're in the grocery store and you automatically reach for her favorite cereal before realizing she's not going to be there to eat it. Then one day it's just the morning light coming through the window that breaks you because it feels too peaceful for how shattered you are inside. I started sleeping with a hoodie on, not because it was cold, but because it made me feel less empty. Like there was still something wrapped around me. And every morning I woke up hoping it had all been a nightmare. It never was. The kids were adjusting in their own way. We worked out a custody schedule and I saw them often enough to not go insane, but not enough to feel whole. Every drop-off felt like a goodbye. Every pickup, a reminder that the family I once fought so hard to build had become two separate lives. I missed them constantly. Not just my own biological children, but all of them. Even hers. Even the ones who wouldn't talk to me anymore. Because they were mine, too, in a way. I saw a picture of her and her high school boyfriend online a few weeks after the move. They were at some kind of outdoor event. He had his arm around her, and she was smiling in that same wide, open-mouthed way I used to love. I didn't feel rage. I didn't even feel jealousy. Just emptiness. Like I had officially been replaced. Like my chapter had ended and someone else had picked up the story right where I left off. Therapy helped. Slowly. The first few sessions were just me venting. Pouring out every thought I couldn't say aloud anywhere else. The guilt. The shame. The anger. The heartbreak. The questions with no answers. Then we started digging deeper. I talked about how I had attached my entire identity to being a provider, a protector, a fixer. How I ignored my own emotional needs for years just to keep the peace. How I mistook sacrifice for love. I realized something important. I had been trying to fix a relationship that had stopped breathing a long time ago. I had been giving CPR to a ghost, and she had already started a new life. One night, while organizing my files on the computer, I found a folder I hadn't opened in years. Future plans. Inside were Word documents, budgeting spreadsheets, floor plans for a house we wanted to build someday, and even a mock-up of a wedding invite we never sent. Jason and Emily. Together forever, finally making it official. I stared at that line for a long, long time. And then I deleted the folder. Not out of bitterness, but because it no longer belonged to me. It was a version of my life that died quietly months ago, back when I found that letter. Maybe even earlier. And it was time I stopped pretending it was still alive. 3 months after I moved out, I stood in front of a mirror and didn't recognize the man staring back at me. Not because I looked broken anymore, but because I was finally starting to heal. There were bags under my eyes still, sure. My beard had more gray than before. But there was something in my posture that hadn't been there for a long time piece. Or maybe just the first hint of it. I had started waking up early again. Not because I had to, but because I wanted to. I'd walk around the neighborhood with coffee in hand, watching the sunrise. Sometimes I'd sit on a park bench and just breathe. No phone, no music, just the sound of birds and my own thoughts, which were finally starting to feel less like enemies. I journaled. I read. I even took up cooking, real cooking, not just reheating leftovers for the kids. I found joy in simple things. Garlic sizzling in olive oil. A good song on a quiet evening. Clean sheets after a long day. And when I looked in the mirror now, I didn't just see the man she left. I saw the man I had forgotten I could be. The kids began adjusting too. My youngest would run into my arms every time he saw me, shouting, "Daddy," like I had been gone for years. We'd build Lego castles, burn grilled cheese sandwiches, and fall asleep on the couch watching old superhero movies. They were my anchor. One night, my 17-year-old daughter left a note on my desk. I didn't even know she had been paying that much attention. It said, "You're doing better than you think, Dad. I'm proud of you. We all are." I cried reading it. And this time, it wasn't from pain. It was from release. There's this moment in heartbreak where you stop asking why it happened and start asking what now. That was the turning point for me. I stopped stalking her social media, stopped wondering if they were happy, stopped trying to assign blame like a judge handing down sentences, and I started rebuilding. I won't lie to you, some nights still hurt. I still roll over expecting someone to be there. I still hear a song and think of her, smell a candle and get punched in the memory. Love doesn't vanish just because it's betrayed. It lingers, it bruises slowly, but I also know now that I'll be okay. Maybe not today, maybe not completely tomorrow, but eventually. I've learned that sometimes people love you the best they know how, and it's still not enough. I've learned that just because someone used to love you doesn't mean they still can. And I've learned that forgiveness isn't something you give to them, it's something you give to yourself so you can finally breathe again. As for her, I don't know where her story leads. And for the first time, I don't need to. Our chapter is done. She was a massive part of my life, but she's not my whole story. I am. And now I get to decide what comes next. So, what now? I rebuild. I heal. I live. And maybe, just maybe someday, I love again. But this time, I'll make damn sure it's with someone who chooses me the way I choose them. Every day. Every time.